This is manpower.
Studying an old language.
It's not yet. No, no, it's not yet.
Starting at 10:30.
Your other friend.
Yes, of course I know you.
Last time he was here. No, violin is like. But nowadays every graduate is doing something different apart from teaching. I was in this concept. Like, most of the people who are designing NFTs are architects. What's happening?
We're doing this one in the other world.
ನಾನು ಹಾಕಿರೋದಲ್ಲ
Technical writing is
ಓಕೆನಾ
what is that?
ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಲ್ಲ ರೊಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ
It's the hornbill.
ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ
So I was giving that I'm not going to go for it.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿದೆಯಾ
You ask like that, nothing comes to you. Suddenly it will come. So, how many producers?
I have people to come over.
Okay.
And I don't need that much.
I was supposed to put out the but you make an exception for that. The other one.
I'm very inspired by that.
Suddenly it's coming. The other side.
I know.
You don't understand. I mean, the Fisher linguist
Very
now
sarcastic.
says what's a tablet? They also kidnapped me. What is the project you said?
Sorry.
What is the project you said?
That is one of the facilities of architecture.
And you are from
So next time I'll tell you I will not forget.
So you're here in the morning and
I
the
feel the
Right now,
now and this
teaching rock our little borders at home. And the ones
coming there.
we are in the world.
first recording. Oh my god. And teaser, we're ready to record one. Any of your recordings, fiber and second.
First time I was
one second.
Yeah, but I
Very bad. The 95 cases.
could be this like.
Okay, अब हम भी आपसे पहले जब आप फर्स्ट टाइम देखा तो इतनी बार इस बार प्रिविलेज टू
What do you come from?
So we just recently started. It's around 2016,
And this
2017.
this happened.
Once we got married, it is called a partnership firm, like partnership. So that's kind of
Both from the same school.
Last time, but same soul. We just
Yes, what is your friend?
I mean,
I'm happy to finish. It is what we follow, the philosophy of please people, purpose and energy. So what happens whenever we went to any site, suddenly I set myself connected with the places about energies and But we got a lot after काफी time हो गया.
Well, you interview people at a huge thing in somewhere in Dubai, Turkey, or somewhere. I don't know where. What was going on here? It's a huge thing. More and more spatial design. You won't be bothered about the building.
सर ये तो सिंपल है.
All of us have started talking very spiritual. Unfortunately, I do many of these spiritual projects. And I have a laugh because in the evening my script is only one script. What?
Simple way. If say the soul and the body, that is the
So we telling on Facebook only. I write all sorts of nonsense.
I have my granddaughter comes. Put it on. Why is that?
We are from Mumbai.
So we
No,
take your
no,
care.
your pleasure. Planning your audience. Anyway.
Thank you, sir.
I've been to
Excuse me.
chairman of Triple ID in Mumbai.
Very excellent.
And Gayatri was the chairman of Bangalore. So I was here 4 or 5 times.
Some function even though going on somewhere.
Yesterday there was an installation. I don't know actually. I thought we'd come here. She's getting some orders into under 40.
Under his guidance.
So, major meeting was there.
We should reach now.
We are here.
Occasions to meet.
Yeah, that's good. Mostly it's more than our fellowship.
Thought I can some change.
Get to, I joined Triple ID for the same reason. I get to know people from your faculty.
We started 3 times. Very few people know the faculty.
Started in Karnataka.
उधर एक्चुअली बोलते ही रहते हैं, गेम खेलते रहते हैं, वो देखेंगे तो और बोले उधर
Saya camera ले लो.
become cold. I want to make it warm. It should become the other way.
Sure.
Warm. करता है. I mean, you're adequate attitude. I don't know how you're caffeine. हमारे पास नहीं है.
Door बाजे. हाँ, यजमान है पूरा रखता है थोड़ा फिर उठो पीछे रेटिंग का अच्छा रहा है
So it's very strange. Strange in the sense that they have insisted on without constituent parts being motivated to project. So the first thing you need is a traffic system, which is very useful. Why would a traffic system hyperloop to I know it's an expression, but then that comes first. Whereas the reality of the matter is that people come first and then create a certain not doing that first and saying these your lifestyle. I think it's just they got ordered quite substantially across. So there's a point of view. And there is something about this whole bunch of people in the past. They do something.
Building and all developed on your own.
Yeah, over a period of time.
Okay.
So I did,
Must be very creative.
I'm actually from a design background. I myself, so I did textile designing.
They would do
That
the
was
largest of the
back in 2000, like about 10-12 years ago.
Very close to
No, from Shrishti School of Art.
Oh, you're in
Here in Bangalore. Yes. So I did my designing there. That's how it all started.
I'm getting old
And then I wanted to do something creative. So I got into, so I didn't want to get into like commerce and maths and all. I wanted to get into something that's related to art. So there were various options. And then slowly what happened was, after that I realized that there was something of self-development, personal development is very important for me. And confidence. That's how the whole thing started.
First time I'm coming across a person who was specialized in such a thing.
So I have been
It is
doing this.
required.
Yeah, so I've been doing image consulting. Image consulting, I had kind of a course and everything there. And then I took it from there into training, this coaching, and now I have a business also.
My second daughter was also in Srishti for some time.
Oh, okay.
Then Nipt,
Lift,
fashion design.
fashion design. What was her, what did she do in Srishti? Art and design. She was under the
Yes,
foundations.
yes.
I was there for 4.5 years. I did foundations in art and design, and then I did textile.
They were there in course, Bombay, and Dubai for 13 years.
Okay, so any specific kind of jewelry or
I really don't know, but they are sort of by different universities,
okay,
second courses, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months.
like specific courses?
Yes.
So it runs in the family.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My first daughter is also an architect. She did masters in interior design. That was not there in India.
So my sister, my younger sister, she's an interior designer.
Ah,
She's based in Bangalore. She works for Maya Design. It's a national. followers than before for her office. She's also picking up local candidates. So when she got to know that I was taking for them, she's like, how are you doing it for architects and interior designers? They wouldn't know, they wouldn't want to know about this.
No,
I said it's such a big need. Yeah.
it's a subject to be understood by everyone.
Yeah. And they're so hell-bent on work and performance, work and performance. And you forget about the connection with people, you forget about the personality aspect. So that is so important. It's in fact more important to get your clients there.
University honored both of them as mentors. First time I knew that word
It's a big thing in every industry.
yours is also something.
Yes, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm coaching people for business. Yeah, on a one-on-one level, on a group coaching level. Especially after COVID, there's a bigger need because people are transitioning in businesses. Some are quitting jobs, starting business. Some are getting back to job. So it's very, the situation is as such that it demands that you start building yourself, that you can take up the competition.
As you said, she teaches University of Chandigarh remotely.
Okay, so she does it online. So convenient.
Yeah, it says, when you are connecting your partner, you don't know. I call them, I tell them, sit under a tree somewhere. Let's see each other and start the process.
That's better actually. That's better way to trust me. I love these offline, on stage events rather than doing it online. But now it's become like that. So, I don't know, it's become all digital centric.
I say,
Supposed to start off with, then they're waiting for few people.
Yes, we will, I think we already have like about 80%. We will wait for next 10 minutes.
okay.
So would you need some tea as well?
I had
I stay near Mount Carmel Cottage. Very close to, like Shangri-La Hotel you see, right next to it. That small lane is there. I stay.
friend of mine also stays next to Mount Carmel.
Check 1 2. Checking with the mic, check 1 2. Check.
Is it Balakrishna?
Check 1 2. Checking with the mic, check 1 2. Take a check.
On the other side. Because we have
Touching
touching Shangri-La. Mount
A
Carmel.
beautiful morning to all of you who have gathered amongst us. A heartiest welcome to each one of you. This is your very own host, Fawzia Khan, with you guys. And yes, the time is exactly 10:40 a.m. in the morning. We will be beginning in next 10 minutes, so I would want you guys to quickly make sure if you haven't taken your morning tea, please go ahead and serve it yourself. And let's quickly get started in the next 10 minutes, and I'm going to be back right after 10 minutes. I would really want you guys to go ahead and take some tea and cookies and enjoy this morning with us. Thank you, guys.
My life completely into my I don't do any real world. It's not my cup of tea. It's a very new field.
No, message on the set. Or yeah, or
It's
yeah.
very, very so I jump.
Not really.
So you can't do that like that. You can only conceptualize. So you can only build with people's land in the metaverse. So think of it as real. Real life has a finite amount of space. So even in the metaverse, people have finite amount of spaces and we design their parcels. It's called parcels. So that parcel of land we design for them. And you don't need a civil to design the colors. You can have floating buildings. So doesn't matter. So the laws of physics don't apply. So we have complete creative control. You want to have a building like this, which defies all laws of physics. You can do it. I don't have that. So
And just a quick request, anybody from the team of Kashyapa Bhua Design Workshop, we would request you to kindly come near the registration desk, please. Kashyapa Bhua Design Workshop, we would request you to kindly come near the registration desk, please. Thank you.
most of my clients are Web3. Most of my clients are Web3.
You never know, I should be coming back again.
So people who own parcels of land inside the metaverse, those are my clients. But none of them from India. In India, like even in real life architecture, only 5 to 10%, that's the metric that only goes to architects. That's what it directly goes to the ministries and the contractors that get designed. So India is not ready for, unfortunately, it's not ready for the metaverse yet. Yes, that's true. So it takes some time. Most of the clients are either European,
So it's not
Canadian,
completely inside the
not from
reference.
inside.
The entrance are
Yeah,
there.
unfortunately, but people need to see value in it. So right now, that was the point of one of my talks, one of my previous talks. How can we bring value to architects? If clients not seeing, I'm talking about our clients. I'm the majority of India, from them giving it to architects. So how do you solve that problem? That's the thing that I'm looking to solve. Let's see. One
Perfect.
I think currently two weeks ago I said next week. Big like form and
Honored me.
so it's a new art form. So architecture that is more than better. But yeah, that's what let's do it. Architecture has become my passion.
They will come to chamber, discuss with them, and let us know.
Yeah, you can refer to during that talk. So it's a small
General signal,
vision as to how architects can take artificial intelligence and machine learning to adopt it into their practices.
single never retires.
your individuality speaks.
what happens
Speaks
once
louder.
again I'll be
People notice
comparing
that
it
and
to
they,
what I presented
honor you
last
for
time.
doing this.
So when I
Maybe it
presented
is that
last time,
which is that.
if this was next,
It's a lot of
how
that.
it's go to this level where it's hyper realistic. So that's what I was telling someone here.
First time I came across in person,
This those three
specialized.
what will the architects be element to the foundation? Once you have to imagine you should design all these things in 3D. So it's a very scary
Quite a difficult start for the job because to get people to understand it also was took me 2 years, 3 years.
very like barely 5 to 10 people like me are doing it as a
Yeah. It's a very different topic. To get people to understand the need of it only takes so long.
very different. I don't know.
I guess everything
They
is
have
a
partners. So that way they are equally vested in the company. They get to take more money. And there's a higher reliability on the people I work with. So, and we associate and dissociate depending on the problem. So there is no sort of, we don't have to be forced to bind it, correct? So it works more efficiently because if you are specialized in something, I take you regarding those problems. But if you are someone specialized in some other type of project, so you can associate with different people. Different sort of, and it allows you to be very light as well.
He's a dermatologist and
One
my
person.
So he is like, whatever you do, please don't take this.
Yeah, actually, I discovered it.
Yeah,
It's such a long.
it's a 10, 20 study for 15 years. This time, like, it's not worth it, but of course if you have the passion for it, but if you're not cut out for it, you're not cut out for it.
Piece of land. It's technically not ownable.
What is the
You can't own it unless there is a roof over it. What if the tree comes to you and stuff? You don't own anything in that case.
Please,
Facebook
please,
doesn't own content members. But I said that
Never, never,
my
never,
NPC
never,
was
never.
getting out of the company. That is what my is why not funding.
And my husband is an engineer. So it's like all these are there in the family. Doctors, engineers, everything. I'm the one who's still away from home.
Like buy this like for example property, you can buy a car, buy a headlight for a car, you can buy a spray tan, but you're not technically owning anything, you just own it instead of giving it. But where you can actually own it. Even if the company sure. So there are different things. Yeah, so you can make different speeds. There is the whole point of metaverse right now is connecting with people. So it's more of functionality rather than so, but there are some companies that are doing, for example, meditation and where all of you come together, and there is one instructor who is things like that. That's a very luxury case. Not everyone can do it. But right now, most of the people they are flying and holding it as land, purely as land. And some people who have the money, who have the budget, they are building something and they are building a movie theater. And they can only enter movie theaters.
And one thing I like our past conditioning actually stops us from doing it.
Definitely not a fancy dog.
So
In 5 years,
my parents will
again, I said this 2 years ago at the same event. So 3 months ago, I was like, why are people coming to these concepts? So again, so I said, again, that's the thing. So I told my you can just see this thing called the sending a and then all these things with VR and virtually. The very next year the pandemic happened and they had no but yeah, essentially this is moving towards a hybrid model. It's already happening. Streaming live is already in a hybrid model. But we have digital avatars and higher rates of 3D emotion with the metaverse.
say that I want to quit. Why do they want to quit? They want to quit because they don't like what they do. But the thing is, it's when you do something that you love, it's the best thing. Please do it.
Yes, very happy because your favorite songs matches our Yes, of course. Yes, Treasurer.
Not directly to treasure. As per the website, what says? Trustee.
You can provide the job is doing very well. Yeah. But I mean, because you.
Yes, it's associated with agriculture.
You do a lot of trips also.
His profile is personal branding coach. Research the new shares.
I'm not doing it.
majority of your
business.
Check 1, 2, check number 9, mic check 1, 2, take a check. Thank you. Alright, a very good morning to all of you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, so with your permission, shall we begin this morning? Yes? Alright, so let's get started. I would request all of you to kindly stand up for the national anthem, please.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Before we begin, I would request all of you to kindly keep your cell phones on vibrations. Yes? Alright, everybody. This is your very own host, Fawzia P. Khan. I welcome our esteemed delegates to this elite conference and awards. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the Architecture and Interior Design Excellence Awards and Conference 2023. The National Edition. Today, on this occasion, we have our delegates from 22 states of India. So, let's welcome this beautiful morning with a round of applause and let's see some energy to all of you out there who's made up for this morning. Architecture and Interior Design Excellence Awards and Conference 2023 National Edition is the conceptualized and curated by Begin Up Research Intelligence Private Limited, Bangalore. Begin Up holds strong reputation in the field of business research, business ratings, analytics, and public relations. Dr. Anand Gopal Nayak is currently the Managing Director of Begin Up Research Intelligence Private Limited, Bangalore. He is a seasoned entrepreneur with expertise into research, business module development, and public relations. He was also named among one of the most leading young entrepreneurs of India and was awarded by none other than the legend Sri Ratan Tata of Tata Groups and Sri Narayan Murthy of Infosys. Dr. Anand Gopal Nayak has helped more than 100 startups and business in returning their business architecture and move towards growth of profitability. He has delivered talk at more than 200 institutions and 20,000 students across India. He is an author of the best-selling business of self-help book Startup Ladder and 2 other novels, namely 18 But Not Tea and Corner Street ATM. Our heartiest welcome to you and thank you for organizing this beautiful event. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we do have our guest of honors, our delegates, all of you, of course, and our speakers. With a round of applause, let me kindly welcome for lamp lighting. With a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Architect Krishna Rao Jensen sir on stage, please. With a round of applause, everybody. I would request you to be here on stage with us, sir. To join on stage for lamp lighting, architect Hetsi Timmaya sir on stage, please. May I kindly welcome Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev sir over on stage, please. Ma'am. Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev ma'am over on stage, everybody. She's looking beautiful today in that elegant sari. Director of UIT at the age of GD Goenka University. May I kindly welcome on stage Mohammed Amin Nair sir from ANA Design Studio Private Limited. And our very young Ms. Bia Asrani, India's leading personal branding coach. A heartiest welcome to you, ma'am. Also we are very delighted to welcome Mr. Rahul Maheshwari and his team of Marble Center International and having Marble Center International on board as our industry partner. Everybody with a round of applause. May I kindly welcome Mr. Rahul Maheshwari and his team from Marble Center International. May I kindly welcome Mr. Hasmukh Shah, Chairman of Institute of Indian Interior Designs, Mumbai, over on stage. With a round of applause, everybody. And here's, of course, my favorite, our very own Abhishek Bhaskar, the beatboxer, and he is the chairman of Dirt Lab. With a round of applause, everyone. A very young AI architecture. On this beautiful occasion, as we have lit the lamp, we pray and hope that all the positivity and success to each one of you welcomes in this room. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. To begin with, our first speaker over on stage, ladies and gentlemen, he is a CEO and a founder of ANA Design Studio Private Limited, is a well-established Indian architect with more than 2 decades of international experience in high-performance buildings. In 1995, he graduated from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi, where he was a part of research conducted on bioclimatic architecture with the Bartlett School of Architecture. He has been a visiting faculty at SPA Delhi since 2002 to 2007, Vastu Kala Academy 2005 to 2007, and Sushant School of Architecture 2004 to 2007. He established ANA Design Studio Private Limited in 1996, a full-fledged architecture, engineering and project management firm with projects across India, West Asia and Africa. He ensures that both are closely knit right from the beginning with a vision to improve upon implementation. Under his leadership, the firm has delivered some prominent projects such as Reliance Technology Group, India's largest private sector laboratory with 48 super specialty labs in an area of 5 lakh square feet in Mumbai. India's first LEED Gold certified laboratory, SRLBs, in 2010. India's first LEED Gold Cash and Carry Merit in 2014. Currently, he is leading projects across across India and Africa, of which landmark village development and 3 million square feet waterfront in Lagos, Nigeria is a prestigious one. Another is the Placer, India, ongoing railway equipment industry in Gujarat, going to be India's first climate control Internet of Things and power over Ethernet building. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, may I kindly welcome on stage Mohammed Amin Nair, the CEO and founder of ANA Design. With a round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much for being here amongst us, sir. Over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin the usual stuff that we do in conferences, talk about. So I'm the kind of architect who talks about pipes and wires. It's very comforting. Nobody ever judges what my buildings look like. And it's especially scary when you are talking to a room full of winners. When I look at conferences such as these, and Dr. Nayak has been kind enough to request me to meet at least once a year here, I see 400 different stories, 400 different journeys, and every journey which is unique, fights that have been fought quietly and won. And today we are here to honor and celebrate those journeys in the hope that we will meet again, and these journeys will continue. So before I start, I just thought of a couple of lines that I read somewhere and I wanted to share with you. It's about winners, and I thought it would be very apt to share it with this audience today in the morning. It goes, "Thakkar na baith, ए लंबी सफर के मुसाफिर, मंजिल भी मिलेगी और मजा भी आएगा." So today it's the maza bhi aayega moment for everyone. I wanted to congratulate all of the winners. And I look forward to many such organizations and great events like this before. My presentation today, so as I said in the beginning, Dr. Nayak is a friend of mine. So, you know, what do friends do? They watch out for each other, right? He watches my back. So I have a presentation about pipes and nuts and bolts, and I've got people like Jay Sim and Dr. Sajdev and senior people sitting over here. So it's a little jittery that one feels presenting architecture. I will try and speak to you about opportunities that exist in our country as well as outside it, opportunities that exist for our profession, things that I believe will speed up and help us to achieve the missed opportunities that have happened over the last several years in terms of infrastructure and development in this country, and possibly things that we need to, each of us, need to concentrate on in our practices that would probably ease things along and be able to deliver things and buildings and infrastructure and cities that we truly want to live in. So I'll just request, so the first part of my, please, so the first part of the presentation is a very small animation. It doesn't have a voiceover, I'll continue to speak. Currently my team is working with the Rail Land Development Authority to redevelop the Chandigarh railway station. It's a project that is unique and challenging in several ways. First of all, from an architectural standpoint, it is in the city of Chandigarh. And I consider Chandigarh to be literally the fount of modern architecture in India. And a lot of our thought and whatever has happened in the country has actually been influenced and shaped by what happened in Chandigarh. So going back to that city 70 years after it was conceptualized, to try and now add a layer of infrastructure which was alien at that time is architecturally challenging. But more importantly, or rather I would say equally importantly, are the challenges that one faces in terms of looking at the explosion of use of these infrastructure. So Chandigarh till about 6 years ago used to be a city that had barely 3 trains coming to it. Today it is expected that, so today the passenger count is about 110,000 people every day. and it is expected to go to twice that much in the next 20 years. To be able to carve out the city spaces around it, infrastructure that will handle the movement of 200,000 people and multitude of trains that comes in, is a challenge that has led us to talk to people in varied fields and truly talk about getting inputs from varied professionals, and especially expertise and experiences that we don't have as architects. So what you are seeing is a layer of, or a multi-layer video of the central file of the design, which shows not just the site and surroundings, but also the structure that will go into it, the existing services that are already on the site, what we envisage to do with it in terms of enhancing the services to manage the multitude of people. You will see a very funny shaped entrance, and that's something that we've used very interesting analytical tools to design. That funny shaped entrance is actually a parabolic traffic movement pattern, and it allows for multiple vehicles to enter and exit from the station in less than 3 minutes if required. The fire suppression system allows people to move out of the station in less than 6 minutes. That is the target. And all of this at Indian pricing and Indian products, and using material that is locally available. Can you go to the PowerPoint, please? So this is, you've just seen an overview. I'll speak for a few minutes in detail. So this building has 6 platforms, and it is also architecturally and urban design-wise very interesting, because it is a physical dimension of connecting 2 cities. So it is Chandigarh and Panchkula that get connected by the railway station. This is actually the only place in the entire area where you can physically walk from Panchkula to Chandigarh across the station. So the station is designed not just for being a station, but also, can I click on this? It's designed not just for being a railway station for the purpose of having people board and get out from trains. It's also a pedestrian area and a social space designed for people to move from one city to the next. This is the funny shaped sort of traffic movement that I was talking about. So typically one would expect that it's a largely rectilinear site and you would sort of get rectilinear roads, etc. But every time we ask traffic to move around a 90-degree corner, it creates bottlenecks and it creates time. And if you see the way the roads are designed now, it's a parabolic form that allows none of the traffic, that asks none of the traffic to move more than 90 degrees except where it is being parked. So except for the parking areas, nothing is 90 degrees. And so time is short, but if you look at our website, you will see the traffic simulations as well on what happens when you have rectilinear sites and what happens when you have parabolic sites taking care of traffic. This is one of the possibilities that has happened on account of using technology and software for analyzing the design that we wish to do. And it is typically a shape that would normally not be found if you were doing it in the typical CAD sort of way. So we use 3D Civil and other analytical softwares to design it. Similarly, if you see, there is a so this part. That's a sky bridge that allows people an unpaid access to move from Panchkula, which is the northern side, to Chandigarh and back and forth. And one of the major desires of our client, which is the Rail Land Development Authority, was that the station building ought to have covered and encased areas which allow for human activity, especially commercial activity, without being air conditioned. So the other important and interesting aspect of this building is that this true roof that you see on the top, as well as the footable bridge that crosses between the 2 cities, meet each other at a height of about 8 meters above the railway tracks. So while the functional aspect of the comings and goings of the train are managed at the ground level or the platform level, you are free to move to a higher level, which is part of it is unpaid. In fact, large parts of it are unpaid, which has commercial activity, which has movement area, which has collection activity, and so on and so forth. So it's expected that a lot of activity that informally automatically happens, and we typically tend to make it what we call quote-unquote unauthorized businesses that come up around these places, now actually have a formal place, a placeholder for them to be able to carry out their business in a respectable legal format without having to get out of the roads and create bottlenecks, and again, as I said, to be called the unauthorized part there's nothing unauthorized actually. If you look at it from the standpoint of our cities, the city is for everyone. It's not just for the guy who bought the ticket or the guy who flew in. It's for the guy who sells vegetables or handkerchiefs or whatever it is that he's doing. We need to create, and as architects, we need to be sensitive to the idea that these are people who own these places as much as we do. In fact, in certain cases, they own it more than we do. I may use a train once in a month, he comes there every day. So there is an attempt to create that formal, informal space without creating a chaos for the people who are coming in and going. So it's a matter of choice. You have the choice of going to the platforms directly and exiting directly and not wasting your time. You have the choice to go up to the concourse level and experience all of these social or commercial activities that will come up over time. Of course, the idea here is then how do you manage these crowds, how do you keep the building cool, how do you make them get constructed? Because the station is not going to stop functioning while we construct this, and it is a massive development. The overall built area is going to be close to about 2 million square feet that will come up. Buses will continue to run, taxis will continue to run, trains will continue to run. And therein, again, the idea of technology and architecture comes in, where you first carry out the layering of everything that needs to get done. And here, this very complex looking jumble that you see has been created by a team of close to about 22 or 23 people who are jointly working on it, partly from our office and partly from other organizations as well, who will basically create placeholders for whatever it is that they need. And each line in each color represents a specialty. So, rainwater management, flood management is a specialty, electrical distribution is a specialty, Internet of Things is a specialty. And I do want to point out that this station will have a very large part of its control and crowd management through Internet of Things. So light fittings that we use will be also sensors that count crowds. Over a period of time, we will actually have a report card of how efficiently we designed it. So despite the best laid plans, if we figure out that over a period of time crowding is happening in certain areas or bottlenecks are happening in certain areas, this feedback is available to us in real time, and we have the opportunity of taking a data-driven decision in terms of improvements later on. If it works, it is also an excellent data point or a data set that is available to designers such as you when you pick up other station buildings to know that these are the learnings that have happened, and you can move forward from here using technology and using design solutions or using concepts that have already been tested. These are some of the areas that are there. So this is inside the through roof. You can see the platform level different from the concourse level. I'll skip the sketchy slides and I'll go on to the technology. Now here, I'll just lead you through one part of how we're planning to do this. The grid is about 25 meters that the through roof uses. And the second characterization is the center of the platforms that already exist. You can't change that. So roughly you get a roof form which is 25 meters by 32 meters. That is the standard sort of module that gets repeated. Trains will continue to pass underneath it while construction is going on, and the electrification, obviously, as you know, is at about 25,000 volts. So this roof form actually ended up becoming one of the most challenging parts of how it's going to get built. It's not been built yet, and I'm sharing with you ideas that we are still working on. So one, there was an architectural desire to create an interesting form and to look at forms that are already used in Chandigarh, concrete shells being one of them. So we chose a hyperbolic paraboloid as a fundamental unit of the roofing design. Why a hyperbolic paraboloid? Why not something else? There are other more stable forms. In fact, at one point of time, there was a strong desire to use thin shells or even fabricated shells as a roof form. And our argument or logic, again based on analysis, was that thin shells are an excellent form structurally. Probably, depending on which side of the aesthetic you stand, may even look more beautiful conventionally than what we are planning to do. However, a thin shell becomes stable only when it is completed, and that is going to be a difficult thing to achieve while you have trains passing through. So this form presented itself as an interesting idea where you got the feeling of a curve and the feeling of a shell, but every constituent component of this roof is a straight line. So the perimeters are trusses which are straight lines. The cross purlins which form the shell form are straight lines. and also the roof that goes over, which is we're going to use zinc sheeting, is normally produced in rolls of straight lines. But the end result would be something like what you see on the right hand side. This should gladden the heart of the traditionalist. So despite all of the software that we use, the eventual decision to finally go for it came from physical models, and I wanted to present it to you because all the nice looking colored slides that come from Revit, etc., are the nth level of solution. You can use them for creating details and data and telling a contractor how to do it and to figure out which cranes you're going to use and what the wind load and that's going to be. But eventually, to be able to accept as an architect that this is something that is worth our time, we did use traditional models. And interestingly, not one of these models now exists in my office because every time somebody would come in for a review, would take one model and go away with it. So yeah, I mean, this is interesting, but that is where it came from. Eventually, then of course, you move on to other aspects of how you're going to modularize it, how you're going to construct it. Everything that we've done over here, the intent, it is so large in terms of its procurement and installation that we have tried to simplify the procurement and the installation process itself. So despite the fact that rooms may be different sizes, despite the fact that areas may be different, there is an entire modularization effort that has gone into making things same size or literally same. So therefore air conditioning, all IDUs have been reduced to 2 sizes in the entire station. So theoretically speaking, some rooms have a higher energy and some have a lower energy. But in terms of the overall feel, etc., you're going to get where you want to be, but the procurement is of a single device. So therefore it can be given out to multiple vendors, you can buy from multiple people, you can replicate it across the country. I mean, just to give you numbers, in the first phase, there are going to be about 400 stations that are developed. And I also wanted to mention it not just from the standpoint of the size of infrastructure that is being built, it's frankly also the size of opportunity that exists for every one of us to be able to work on these projects. I mean, the country is looking for good quality consultants and good quality people who can participate in this effort and make it happen. It cannot happen with a few large companies doing it. I believe that there is a very, very strong move to give out the work to as many people as possible, keeping the fundamental philosophies in line. Then the same thing happened for electrical distribution systems and the interface with IoT. Oh, sorry, this is. How can I go back?
The down button.
Sorry. Yeah, so one of the important aspects, as I said, is Internet of Things. In the next few slides actually are a proof of concept that we've done a couple of years back and being replicated here. Unlike a science fiction movie, the Internet of Things actually is an incredibly simple, straightforward technology. Basically what it does is that it takes any active component of a building, whether they are rotary devices for pumps of any kind or whether they are static devices, even like lights, and it creates a simple language protocol that allows these equipments and elements to talk to each other and talk to the environment. The environment being defined by temperature, humidity, light, and people. So there are obviously simple protocols like Modbus, BACnet, which exist, which all of us use. I mean, you are here in this building. A large number of you may probably be logged onto the Wi-Fi with your individual mobile devices. And you are able to do it because these devices are talking to each other in a common language. So that common language now is being deployed across infrastructure. And what it is doing is, it is allowing the equipment itself to talk back to the controllers. So if a light is not working, for example, somewhere, nobody needs to physically go and figure out or wait for a complaint to happen. The light will tell the controller that I'm not working. So again, extremely simple, straightforward thing that if the current is not passing through a particular element, you know it's not working. But then it doesn't stop there. It goes ahead of that. It talks to the sensor which is mounted outside the building to see what the solar reflective index of the outside light conditions are. And this light or the set of lights have been told that you need to maintain a constant 150 lux, 180 lux, or whatever it is that we've decided. So the number of lights required to maintain that particular light level inside will switch themselves on as the sun starts to set. So you will find that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there may be 2 or 3 lights on. 6 o'clock, you have 40% lights on. And by the time it gets to 90, you have 100% of the lights on. It doesn't stop there, it goes even further. So it talks about sensing movement and IR. So basically infrared based on our human body temperature, it's been programmed to human temperature. So long as you don't have COVID, it will read you as one person. If you have COVID, you get read as several people. But so it basically then also allows the controllers to know where crowds are happening. And you also then, by design intervention, create multiple zones for people to be attracted to. So typically what happens is that people will collect to a place where they find comfortable or which is attractive. But if you have beyond a particular number of people collecting in a particular place, it can become a crowd and be difficult to manage. And therefore you create multiple zones of activity or multiple zones of interest which can be switched on or off depending on where the crowds are, and you kind of pull away the crowd from one place to another one and just create a comfortable situation for people to go. It talks about ridership, it talks about reading of eventually electronic ticket systems. And interestingly, when you look at these small interventions that a few people today are doing on one building, and you multiply them across the country or across a region, you start to get big data sets that can actually create policy. So therefore, if the crowd is moving from city A to city B, and a different percentage is moving from city B to city C, over a period of time, it will start to give the planners and people who are creating policy the ability to lay new lines or to create new trains or to create new transport on where people actually want to go. And that would become almost, and I'm very hopeful that it would, and we will see it in our lifetimes over the next 5 to 6 years, that the design of infrastructure and the decisions to create infrastructure in places will be intuitive to data. And that data, the first point of that data, is the investment of technology into these buildings that are creating crowds or pulling crowds. So that's one of the things that we hope will happen. I just want to briefly show you something that I've shown earlier also, and probably a couple of others. These are all proofs of concept that our company has done over a period of time in the last 7 or 8 years. This building is the one that you just saw, is one of the, I believe the first office building which is an IoT, and the first production building which is an IoT, been running for about 4 years. So this technology is being tried and tested on a small private sector project which is 5 lakh square feet, and now being deployed on a public project which is much larger. So I just thought, I can see Fawzia looking at a watch. When I start talking about pumps and nuts and bolts, I get carried away. I just hope that these are things that would, that would pique your interest. I once again want to congratulate all of the winners for the journey and the small station that you are at today, and I hope that you win much more going forward. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mohammed Amin Nair, sir. Once again, a round of applause. Thank you. Yes, to quickly invite our very next guest. We can't wait to have him on stage and you people to hear from him. So with a round of applause, let me kindly welcome Shri Architect H.C. Timmaiya sir on stage. He contends that a good design and should effectively tackle issues of environmental impact from the drawing board instead of creating a problem and then finding a solution. He is the past president of IIA, Indian Institute of Architects, National. He is the trustee nominee of IIA, Indian Institute of Architects, National, architect and restoration expert. Shri H.C. Timmaiya sir were also a part of Indian National Trust for Art and Culture Heritage. Shri H.C. Timmaiya sir was bestowed with Karnataka Rajyotsava Award, the most prestigious award by Government of Karnataka for his contribution in the field of architect. He has held several important posts in various national and international architecture, and Shri H.C. Timmaiya sir was the past president of Karnataka Golf Association and past captain of Karnataka Golf Association. He is currently the advisor to the Nitte School of Architecture, Bangalore. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have you, sir. To all of you out there, with a round of applause, let's welcome Shri H.C. Timmaiya sir amongst us on stage. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for those kind words. My dear promoters of Begin and dear fellow architects. It was in late 70s. I was in Madras, then Madras, working for a central government organization where small strikes and all used to be common. In one such incident, a group of people, a protest, they threw stones at a building. It was only a ground and 2 floors in Rayapeta and smashed the glasses, not with any intention or anything. It was a part of the strike. Next day there was a big headline about the glass facade buildings. I came to Bangalore in the late 70s and the debate among the architects was the glass facade buildings, and it was so common. It was happening here, there, everywhere. Do we need that kind of buildings in cities like Bangalore or elsewhere in the country? There was a big debate among the architects on day-to-day basis. Friends, it was growing and growing and grown beyond control. Strikes had come down, throwing stones at the glass buildings also came down. But I still debate and think about those buildings which come not only in cities but in faraway places and small towns too. My only advice or experience or little bit of note is that do we need such buildings everywhere, elsewhere, and why not? It's still I'm in the debate. Friends, we are about 50,000 architects in India, and there is no unemployment. This is one of the professional courses in India that nobody is unemployed. And here is a chance I tell the students when you pass out, think of the neighborhood that you come from and go and do some work. Show what you can do. Food, clothing, and housing are the 3 important things in life of whether it is a poor man or a rich man. As a humble person, got into architecture and passed out, go and do some work around your houses that you come from, maybe in the city or maybe from villages. That will be beneficial, and it will show a sort of dimension, a sort of a work that an architect can do in a small building using local expertise. Friends, I don't want to talk much on this subject. You're all well aware of this. I just conclude by saying good wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Sure. A round of applause for Ashuri HCT Maya sir, everybody. To everyone out there, let's just get some energy in, and well, like I said, it's a beautiful morning. We want you all to get a little bit more active while you're clapping. Actually, clapping is good for health. So let me hear it for all of you and each one of you who's made it for this morning. Come on. 3, 2, 1, let's get going, everyone. Thank you. On that note, it's my pleasure to welcome and also to read about welcome our very next speaker. She is qualified as an architect from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, in 1989. After a period spent in practice and research in India, she undertook a PhD in agricultural theory at the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London, in 1996. She was later lecturer in history of art at the University of Sussex, UK 2000, in the year 2000. A post she left to return to India in 2004. She then worked as an independent writer and lecturer and as a consultant on the restoration of Jal Mahal, Jaipur. She joined the Sushant School of Art and Architecture as professor in 2015 as professor and in 2016 as dean. She has published 4 books and over a dozen of scholarly articles. She is now the director of UIT at the J.D. Goenka University, looking after design, architecture, and art programs. Ladies and gentlemen, architect Vibhuti Sachdev ma'am is amongst us. With a round of applause, let's welcome her on stage. Architect Vibhuti Sachdev's primary area of expertise is Vastu Vidya, India's classical architectural knowledge system. Many of her publications concern this. Indian architectural theory in 1989 and related knowledge system, and ma'am, I would request you to kindly be here, please. And their expressions in architecture and art. She has worked extensively on the city of Jaipur, focusing on its architecture and craft traditions. Her second book, Building Jaipur, in the year 2002, uses Jaipur as a test case of exploring changes in planning theory and practice in India between the pre-colonial and post-modern eras. Jaipur City of Palace, 2008, discusses both the visual and social cultures of city's primary royal residents. Ms. Vibhuti Sachdev's 4th book is on the festivals at the Jaipur Court, 2014. Vibhuti Sachdev used her expertise in her Vastu Vidya in hands-on conversation and design. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have you amongst us, ma'am. And I think it's the very first time we will also be hearing about Vastu Vidya on the stage of Big Enough especially. At the Jal Mahal, she has experience of teaching architecture and history of art at SOAS Sussex, JNU and SSAA throughout her career. Ms. Vibhuti Sachdev's managed research projects and academic conferences and currently holds a senior position in academic administration. Indeed, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to welcome our very next speaker on stage, Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev, ma'am, on stage. Over to you, ma'am.
Very much long introduction. My presentation is distinctly going to look like Neolithic after Amin's very high-tech presentation. I want to introduce an idea. I mean, I have only 15 minutes, so one idea is, I think, what 15 minutes can take. An idea that buildings are books, and buildings need a book to be read. And to read those buildings, you need to understand the vocabulary of the building. So, all the buildings have a design vocabulary, have a design theory, intention, and for us as designers and architects, I think it is quite enriching to engage with that vocabulary. So in order to do that, to introduce the grammar of some of the buildings, of course I'm not going to sit here with a whole dictionary to introduce the vocabulary, but a few words, say, within the architectural vocabulary. And this is all, part of, yes, the larger field of Vastu Shastra. Vastu Vidya is what I would call it. Knowledge of architecture, knowledge of conceptual space, indigenous architecture, whatever you want to call it. And I spent many years looking at the text because I was challenging my grandfather who said, architect to bange magar kuch aata nahi hai, sort of thing. And my nana was an acharya, so he used to tease me often that I didn't know anything about India, which was actually quite true because we weren't taught much about India. We knew more about Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe and what was happening in Paris than we knew about what was happening in next door. So I started looking at text. I started looking at it's a long story, but after having looked at the text, I wanted to see how these descriptions or descriptive suggestions in text were applied while building cities, and Jaipur was the test case I used to see how theory of architecture was applied in designing Jaipur, which was a 17th century, 18th century, foundation was 1727, 18th century, pre-modern city. This was the period when we did not use plan section elevation to communicate design. This was a period when we used a codified system of design, and also Jaipur was interesting because it was built in one stroke as a plan. Because otherwise, what happens is when you study cities like Jodhpur or Udaipur, they have layers of additions in time, and then it's very difficult to see the original plan. Whereas Jaipur was conceived as a single plan, built in 14 years, and what is interesting is it was built as a commercial city. So it's not a sort of a religious, institutional. The idea Jaising had when he was commissioning, designing with Vidyadhar was a diwan, not an architect. Planning the city was that they wanted to build a place which was the best place to shop in. That was the core idea of Jaipur, and it still works. So I'm going to choose some examples from there and some examples from other places to introduce few words in these books of architecture. So this is just an introductory slide to show where we are, and you can see there is a kind of a coherence to the design of Jaipur, and some of you may have been there and know that Jaipur is, a living city. Can anybody tell me what material Jaipur is built on? Not Professor Jaising. Probably knows the answer. What's Jaipur built with? What's this red material? Red sandstone, right? Good, because Jaising wanted to fool the audience to think it is red sandstone, and it isn't. It's actually rubble masonry with chuna, lime, mortar, and painted in geru, which is brick mortar, brick powder. So why this? Because he's building in a Mughal context, and the Mughal power is waning. This is Aurangzeb on the throne. He comes down from the hills and establishes a commercial city, and it looks like an expensive material. It's not, and this is something that still fools the audience. Okay, so some of the I wanted to kind of engage with the courtyard, which is a very standard standard motif in many North Indian Havelis and indeed in Kerala and Tharavads as well. So this is an internal courtyard, and you can see how it's articulated in the sense that there are these horizontal and vertical strings that bind the space. And these strings communicate a certain idea of the space. So you see in the on the floor, this one. This is a string. This is called pochi. So it's pochi, and it implies there's a plinth level. So you have the pochi there, and you have the pochi on the roof. So wherever there is a floor outwardly, it is shown as a pochi. Pochi is also the border of the ghagra. Pochi is also the border of the kurta. Pochi is also the border of the sleeve. So what I'm saying is that it's not just architecture that does this vocabulary of ending space, of moving space into different planes. We also do it in clothing, we also do it in objects, we do it in a matka, we sort of mark the levels, we mark the ends and beginnings, we mark the transitions of planes very, very emphatically. And so you see how when this plane horizontal moves into perpendicular, the corners are very, very emphatically articulated. It's not something that is, brushed aside as not important. In fact, one of the craftsmen told me when I was working with them in order to learn what all of this complexity of design is, that he said that if you want to see whether the building is defective, you should just observe the meeting point of two planes. And all the defects in the building occur first or surface first where the planes meet. And so indeed, I mean, if there's any gap, is a difference in the level, difference in material, all the cracks first and foremost come at the junctions, which is what he was saying. And you can see how the pochi sort of continues on the floor level, continues on the roof, and also there are other levels like the cut or the dado panel, if you can see, that is articulated at the same level. These are horizontal strings that bind the space, and there are these verticals, of course, that. Another example of something very interesting happening. This is a slide of Gwalior Fort, and I find it very interesting because once you understand that pochi actually is the plinth marker, you begin to see the play with the plinth marker. And here you see how the plinth marker is played. It's spaced out like here, and then on the roof, and there are various markers of the fort wall. You see this one? So this is actually castellation. So it's called kapikuti, which means head of a monkey. So this motif suggests that this is the end of the fort wall. Now, to compress all these motifs on a single plane suggests loftiness, suggests that there are lots of these walls, and these are all motifs that are compressed on a facade. And I find this a very interesting facade because it's a wraparound facade, which actually is suggesting depth. Once you know the language, otherwise it's just surface decoration. But once you engage with the vocabulary, you can see the plinth markers, you can see the castellation, you can see the ducks going in a certain way, the elephants going another way, meeting in the Jaroka. But also it was very important to articulate sensitively how the roof, how the building meets the sky. That was a very important aspect of design, aspect of design in India, that you don't just end the building like a dabba. It's not a lid, it's not a dhakkan or a box. You have to address the sky, and how does the building meet the sky was very important. delicately the motif of the castellation is articulated on the top, where it kind of lets the light in and gives the whole fort look a little lightness, which kind of lifts it even further. It's like it makes it even more lofty when it's kind of light on the top. This is an example from Dathia. Dathia and Orcha are close by together, and both of these complexes are absolutely square complexes. And Dathia has this tower in the middle, and Orcha has a large courtyard in the middle. So Dathia's tower in the middle, connected with corridors on the four sides, that's the tower. But I want you to observe the brackets in the corner that are very interesting, because it's a bracket, but then the part where the load is not transferred is made into a jali, the corner bracket, and it gives it again a lightness and lets the light in through the turning point, and all these, and you can see the temple columns. Again, the idea of centrality is very important in Indian design. How do you mark the center? So therefore, that is the reason why odd numbers are regarded more important than even numbers, because odd number gives you a central opening. And you've got these 3 arches, you've got 1, 5, 7. These are numbers that are important because it gives you the centrality of the building. But you see the bracket that was used in Dathia, it's the same bracket which is used in Fatehpur Sikri, the Dargah. So there was this, like books, I was talking with buildings are like books. Books have intertextuality, that an idea in a book gets copied, writing styles influence other books. There are forms and motifs in a book that get transferred into other expressions, and similarly in architecture that you find, it is true today as well, that you see an articulation of a space, of an idea, which gets then translated into other buildings. So this jewel-like building here you see, and many of you may have been here. And the jali is so delicate, and the craftsmanship is just simply amazing. But you can see how the brackets have been influenced by that. Yes, I'm quite interested in this kind of exchange, this kind of intertextuality, this kind of eclecticism, you may call it. But I also want you to see how the roof, the building line is articulated and how it meets the sky. It's not a dhakkan. It's got a castellation, it's got spires, it's got interesting ways of greeting the sky, and you have to meet space. And that is an important moment of buildings design, how do you greet the sky. This is a familiar building to most of you, you're architects, Jaisalmer. And Jaisalmer has got this amazing golden yellow stone, and it is just, when you go there, even the road is this sunny golden color, and you think, this is just out of the world. And Shonar Kela, of course, Satyajit Ray's movie was based on Jaisalmer. But why I'm showing you this slide is to see how the centrality is articulated. That you've got how the center is extruded out of the facade. So you get 7, and you get this middle spine, and then the center is also marked with this chhatri on top. Now, you might read the top as 5 5 divisions. Actually, it is 3 plus 2. It's not 5 because all 5 are not equal. So it's the center that is big, and then you have the side divisions. So it's the 3 in the center and then 2 on the side. Can you read that? On the topmost kiosk. Ramachandra temple in Jaipur, which is a Haveli Kotyard temple, I studied quite a lot in detail, where I measured and drew everything by hand, and talked to craftsmen, trying to understand what its various motifs are, about, and what is the meaning and articulation. So I'm just going to give you 2-3 things. So this is the courtyard of the Ramachandra temple, and you can see there are these 3 large marble arches. But again, you see this, similar motif of the Bangalore Chhatri or Bangalore pavilion on top, which has 3 plus 2 divisions, and then you see how the corners are articulated with the Chhatris. And then you can see the porching which wraps around the entire courtyard. So these are some of my drawings which sort of try to explain how the porching runs around and how each of the space, even in the facade, is articulated by these. This is called a galat, which the leaves that move in a certain way. So when you start reading these motifs, the building becomes very dynamic. It gets a lot of movement, and it sort of comes alive almost. And if you see the open plan of the courtyard, there is this concept of jugalbandi, which is also in music. In architecture, it's called takbandi, which is, you address the opening. Every opening or a door or a window is referred to as a question, and you have to answer it politely. You can't have an unresolved space in front of a window or a door. So that is what takbandi is. That tak means to look or sight, and a facade in a courtyard has 4 sides. So the facade is looking at the opposite side. So the opposite side has to have a polite relationship with the other side. So the open plan shows that there are 5 divisions and slightly differently articulated, but as far as the takbandi is concerned, it is absolutely in harmony, in kind of sync, not in sync with each other. So this is what faces those lofty marble arches. So you can see how the 3 lofty marble arches have this jugalbandi with the opposite facade, and how that's also reflected here and articulated again on the roof, on the sky, meeting the sky. And there is this, you can read the horizontal strings like the pochi and the khat, and then another pochi and another pochi on top, and you can read the verticals. So this is the other side, which has an identical side looking at it, which are 5 divisions again, and all these articulations. Now there is an interesting thing happening here. What is interesting is that these stucco niches, which are on top, so there is a column of niches, and the top 2 niches have a border at the bottom. You can see it's all like has a frame, except for the lower niche, which doesn't have a frame. So it's very puzzling as to why this niche does not, why does this not have a frame? Now this troubled me for some time. So why? I mean, it can't be that craftsmen are Buddha, no? That's what some British people may have said, craftsmen are Buddha. But why is it that Why is it that the lowest niche doesn't have a flame? Now, when I looked at more of this building, and I was looking at how things are articulated on top, I looked at one of the galleries, and if you see here, there is the courtyard is this side, and then there is a corridor, and then there's an inner gallery. Now, if you see the innermost gallery, there are again columns that are half. Can you see this? The back wall has half columns. Now, what's happening here? Why are the columns half? So this, if you remember when I was talking about the Jaipur facade and how various layers are compressed into one, giving it that loftiness. This is something like that happening here as well. That you've got the cut. Now, cut the fresco, the black border araish is this Jaipur fresco technique. So there are two fresco techniques, the Italian one and the Jaipur one, secco and the wet one. Jaipur fresco is the wet technique where you keep the surface wet and you keep putting in pigment and keep polishing it, and it becomes, and what is interesting is Jaipur fresco can only be done in bad sandstone. It can't be done in good expensive sandstone because bad sandstone is porous. So the fresco will stick to a porous surface, and what happens with fresco is that over 200 years it becomes one with the stone. You can't remove the fresco layer. So it's called Indra something it has a mention in Vastu Shastra text as well. Vajralet. Vajralet means the lathe, the covering of Vajra is the lightning bolt. It is so strong, and therefore you see all these old forts when you visit the araish is still there because it's just become one. That is how the idea of how buildings age, how would they age, and how they would kind of continue their life and mature in terms of material was one of the things that is discussed in the text. That how do you look after buildings, how do you look after the aging process is something that is inbuilt in design. So what is happening is that the cut is considered as the topmost layer of the facade, and you see it as some columns are behind the cut. So this is also from the Mughal tent idea, that you have the tent and you have the columns at the back. So the fabric becomes the cut, which is not a fabric here, it's the building material, it's fresco, it's a rash. And the columns therefore are shown behind the cut. And so therefore, you see here, this column of niches is disappearing behind the cut. Because cut is also, it's 2.5 feet from the floor. They are without clothes. So you have to imagine them as, with tents and canopies and chadjas and carpets and gaddas. So the lower level of the building would be used more than, they were not sitting on tables and chairs. So if you see old miniature paintings, you will see buildings with a lot of textiles. Somebody should do a PhD on architectural textiles. I mean, I can guide, but somebody must do it because there's such a wealth of material of building textiles. I mean, it's a field in itself. You've got carpets, you've got chicks, you've got awnings, you've got kanat, you've got tents, and these are all made for buildings. And as the weather changes, the carpets come out, and then, if it's hot, the chicks come out. And so this is something we should consider to bring back into a building instead of putting ACs and switching them on. Let's, bring the chicks out, bring the move to a different side of the house or something like that. So you see, this is going behind the, and you can see the porch here. And the other thing that I want to point out with this slide is that regardless of the material, whether you're building in marble or you stucco, doing stucco plaster, which is this facade. So the marble facade is the primary facade because that's where the Ramachandra idol is there. So that's the Garbhagriha of the Haveli temple, and these two are just verandas. So this uses a cheaper material, which is stucco, but the articulation of design remains the same. So this is something also very, very interesting about our culture, that regardless of the economics of the material, whether you're doing it in brass or silver or copper, you have similarity in articulation of design. You see space as very distinctively similar. So in wood as well. So here also you see that the marble facade is continued seamlessly. The porch is turning around, even if it's stucco here and it's marble engraved here, and the chhajjas are turning around and binding the facade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev, Director of UID NCRJ GD Goenka University. A round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. Alright, on that note, let me quickly welcome our very next speaker on stage. She is India's leading personal branding coach, is the author, impact creator, coach, personal branding expert, image consultant, and professional trainer. Having trained more than 25,000 people over the last 12 years, she has been able to impact so many companies, brands, and organizations through her expertise in image management, personal branding, and overall creating an impact through one's presence. She has trained companies and organizations like Century Real Estate, HDFC Bank, Cape Chimney, Wipro, Z Group, Make My Trip, IKEA, Myntra, at Christ University, Indian School of Business, IBM, and many more. She is also owns a community of entrepreneurs, coaches, and working professionals called Design Your Presence. She is on a mission to help people become the top 4% in their industry as impact creators, enabling them to skyrocket their careers. Ladies and gentlemen, India's leading professional personal branding coach. Let's quickly welcome on stage the young and talented Ms. Dia Asrani. It's a pleasure to have you. Over to you.
Wow. So I'm going to be talking to a lot of winners in the house. Yes? Okay, but I want some energy firstly. I want everyone to stand up. This is something very off of what all the speakers have been doing, but I want everyone to stand up. I want you to put your hand on your heart and say, I'm a winner. I want every one of you to say that. Because I'm going to honor that today by speaking about a very important topic that all of you need to learn. Alright? I want everyone to sit down. Yeah, you don't need to stand for the whole talk, it's okay. So how many of you feel that it is important to be noticed as a good architect in your industry? Raise your hand, please. Thank you, thank you. Not raising your hand, that means you don't want to be noticed. Okay. Yeah. And how many of you want to be seen and heard and be famous for who you are in your industry? Look, it goes beyond your domain expertise and your domain knowledge. We all are really good at what we do. Don't you all agree? Yes? We all have the experience. We all have the poise, the confidence to actually do whatever it takes. But in the end, it is you and your responsibility. So that's what I want to talk about today. As we live in a society, as we live in the world wherein Every single industry is growing. Don't you agree with me? Demands are increasing. With demands, opportunities are coming in. And more opportunities means more work for you, more business for you, right? Now, talking about that, I have no doubts that each and every one of you is fabulous at your work. Yes? Just look at each other in the eye and say, you're fabulous. Come on, do that. Look at each other in the eye and say, you're fabulous. Yes, come on, I want the energy. Come on, you've got to accept each other that you're really good at what you do. Yes? So, yeah. So, when we go on to that, okay, there's something good about more demand in every industry, right? We all look at that and we see that with that good demand, there are more opportunities, there are more people coming your way, and there is more scope of doing better. Now just think of architect, okay? Let's look at the industry, the architecture industry. When we actually look at houses, we look at families growing, we look at hotels, we look at different kinds of industrial sheds, we look at so many ways to actually work on, you know, the whole structure of it. Look, I don't know much about the domain, I'm just talking based on personal branding, alright? But the idea is that everyone has some work to do, but in the end, how do people choose you over your competitors? Right? That's where the question comes in. I have a question for you. And this is for you to reflect. You can go home and you can reflect it. I know you're all like winning things and stuff here, but then after this there is some work to do where you've got to stand out and be noticed for who you are. So I have a question for you. Do you have what it takes to stand out in the industry? Yes? Yes? I'm sure. Right? I'm sure. And I want you also to understand that it is so important today to understand how powerful personal branding is, okay? And I call personal branding more about impacting people's lives, okay? Looking at more of impact, looking at more of how you understand their needs, how you care for their needs, okay? So, I'm going to talk about, quickly, I'm going to talk about the need of personal branding, and I call it the 4 A's of personal branding, okay? So I want everyone to take notes and write down. It's very important to understand the 4 needs of personal branding. Why should I think beyond my work? Why should I be more powerful than my work? My work will speak for itself. And this is, let me tell you one thing, more than 96% of people in every industry says this. My work does the talking now. Why would people want to know me? You're highly mistaken. People want to know every single bit about you. Because today, people connect with people. Okay? If you want them to connect with your work, they have to connect with you first. That's the idea of it. So the first thing I would like to talk, the first A, everyone, put A in the, I usually say in the chat box because usually my sessions are on Zoom. So I'm going to just do this, just put A on the paper, and I would say attention by standing out. A is attention by standing out. To help you stand out from your competitors, you have to do beyond just the work that you're doing today. Which means your image, your personality, your visibility, the way you show up in front of your audience, it is the first thing that makes you who you are beyond your work. Okay? Because see, your life is not just your work, right? You have other things, you have other aspects of your life to actually showcase. So why not? Okay? That's the first A. Now the second A for you. Amplifying connections. Amplifying connections. When we talk about amplifying connections, a lot of people think that, oh, I need to be very good at communication skills, only then I can start talking to people. No, you're highly mistaken. You have to be very good at connecting with people more than just communicating with them. Look, we can all be good at English. Do you agree with me? Everyone's good at their language, everyone's good at communicating. Right? These days there are courses everywhere where people are saying that, learn communication and master the art of speaking in English, all that. But that's not it. We need to connect with people, and the secret ingredient for connecting with people or getting clients today is connection from the heart. Do you agree with me that when we look at any industry, we look at the needs of the person, we look at the needs of the client, the individual, and every aspect of what we do. So that's what we have to show up and do. And what's more important here, guys, is that your mindset matters in this case when it comes to communication. It's your mindset. Look, I look at this, okay, I call this the little voice. You have 2 years, everyone, okay, 2 years. There's a constant chatter between the 2 years happening. I'm already so good at what I do. I have these many years of experience. This is what I'm going to be saying. But there goes more, there's much more than what your mind actually tells you today. Okay? Your mind does a lot of talking. But it's up to you to control it in a better way. That's what matters here. Okay? There's the third A is attract opportunities. Now you might be thinking, now she's talking. How do we attract opportunities and we get more clients and get more jobs and promotions and whatnot? I tell this to many clients today. Okay? The world is your oyster. There are enough opportunities around you. Look at the speakers we have just spoken to. Look at the people around you. Tons of opportunities. You can see them. But here's something for you. Can they see you? That is where the visibility plays a role, by attracting opportunities. See, you might think that my industry has too much competition, I cannot deal with this, I'm quitting, I'm changing my industry. No, it doesn't work like that. I made that mistake in my initial years. By the way, I'm a design student too. So I've done textile designing and I was resonating with what you were saying. I've done textile designing too. I moved from there to image consulting because I felt the connection with self-development and personal development, and I felt that every single career, every single path needs to know this. I was just discussing and saying that it took me 3 years to make people understand the need of personal branding. And here I am standing in front of you talking about it. So, that is what it is. Thank you so much. And the fourth A is appreciation. I'm sure everyone wants appreciation of their work. Everyone wants to be known for their work, how good they are, the quality of their work. But more than appreciation, it is you as a person, as a personality, that truly matters in this journey. I can tell you one thing, okay? Today you're standing here as winners. There are going to be more winners coming in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Do you agree with me? It's only going to grow. It's not going to stop at you guys. You guys are going to be influencing them. You guys are going to be teaching them. That's the power, right? So it goes beyond just understanding the domain knowledge. Domain knowledge, we need to excel in everything that we do. I'm not saying domain knowledge is not important. But I'm saying that your personality, your charisma, every aspect of who you are as a person is more important today. Because people want to know that you care. So, I have a few ways where you can start building your personal brand. Okay, everyone wants to know that? Just to quickly start. Okay, I have 5 ways which you can do. Number 1, how many of you are on LinkedIn already? Few of you. How many of you are on Instagram? Okay, do you use Instagram and LinkedIn for business? Be honest. I can see some no's. Oops, I'm just using it to go scroll through, right? No. So LinkedIn branding, okay, I call it LinkedIn branding. If you already have a profile, great. But if you don't have a profile, I highly suggest get on LinkedIn today. Build your profile today. Okay? Because that's the number 1 thing to build your personal brand. Not saying because you need to have a digital presence, you can even do it offline and all that. That's not a problem. But I'm just saying that because the way the world works today, we need more people online. Because you want to get clients from out of India, you want to get clients worldwide, right? You want to get opportunities worldwide. So this is even for the people who have been in the industry for a while, but they've just been under the rocks because of word of mouth, right? We don't want that. That's the first way to build your personal brand. Second one is posting a preview of your work. Now this could be either a seminar or a webinar. Seminar could be offline, a webinar can be online. So you can actually work with a 90-minute webinar, or not, forget 90 minutes. You can do like a 30-minute webinar or a seminar, previewing what you do, your style of work, how you are, like how the speakers have done. You can do something like that. And then at the end, you can actually invite people for a one-on-one call. That could be another way to get people to convert. Okay? The third way is to create versatile content. Now here's where it's a little debatable. A lot of people say, I'm an architect or I'm an interior designer, so I just need to keep putting my work online and then it will do well. That's not true. Okay? That's a myth. because everyone's doing that. What we have to do here with versatile content is you and your work. So people need to know who's the person behind it. Just think of Apple. Okay, if you look at the brand Apple. Till today everyone talks about Steve Jobs. Everybody. Why do they talk about Steve Jobs? Personal brand. Right? He's built that impact. So it's the same thing we want for you also in your industry. It'll make a huge difference. Alright? Now, the fourth one is have one-on-one sessions with people on a regular level. Because see, for architecture, I think for the most simplest thing, architecture is something that you need to have a one-on-one association with people before they can actually start doing business with you. Right? So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is the most important.
The third one?
The third one was creating versatile content. Okay? Which is basically you and your work. Combination of both. Okay? Now the fifth one is invest in your personal development. Now here's where people chicken out. No, I'm already working on my personality. I've come a long way. I have already seen experiences. I've been there, done that. I don't need personal development. Personal development is the number one thing. It's the need for every industry today to thrive. You want to be in survival mode or you want to thrive as a business? One or two? Put two if it's two, or put one if it's one. Come on, show me. Two, everyone wants to thrive. You want to sustain your business, you want to sustain your career. You don't want to quit, right? They're not quitters. Winners are not quitters, right? Yes. So I don't want you to quit. I want you to work on your personal development. And personal branding is one of the things that you can do. Okay? And the results of all this. That's the bigger one. Powerful opportunities worldwide. One of the key things I can tell you, it's not just your work talking. Everyone can be good. Like if you look at architect A and architect B, okay, both are very good in their own ways. There's a reason why a person chooses architect B and not architect E. Not because that person is better in terms of cost and everything. The person is better because the person is better as a person. That's why people choose. Okay, that's the idea of it. That's how the business works today, right? Especially after COVID. The second thing is get a chance to speak at conferences. Do you want to be speakers like this? Who wants to be speakers like this sometime? Of course, right? Come on, Diya, what a question. But yeah, you want to be speakers like this. This can be an opportunity for you. Who knows, next year or maybe in the next 6 months you could be speaking like this. Yeah? Third one, book premium clients. Premium clients. Not clients who are not ready to pay you. Clients who you can actually raise your value and say that, hey, I can help you in a better way. And they will just, no-brainer, it's a no-brainer. They'll just come and they'll just pay you whatever that you charge. That's the idea, right? Attract clients and companies who will resonate with your personality more than your work. Because I'll tell you one thing, even with architecture or with any industry, don't you think it's a long association, a long-term association? It's not an overnight thing, right? So with that long-term association, it is very, very important to be okay with the person that we're working with. It's a relationship in the end, right? So we have to make sure that is what is the power over here, all right? And finally, building a network and community of people who will refer you, all right? See, this is like a short and sweet session on personal branding, okay? But I can go on about it. Okay, I can tell you stories about it, I can talk about it, I can keep talking about it. Of course, you can ask me questions about it. But I just have one thing to tell you. If your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Ms. Diya Asrani, everyone. Genuinely, I really got to learn a lot. I'm believing all of you here too, yes? Yes, everyone? Yes. Thank you. Okay, on that note, a very young, talented, let me speak about him. Abhos. So he calls himself Abhishek Abhos Bhaskar, the beatboxer, yes. He is an Indian beatboxer, award-winning architect, a 3D world builder, and one of India's leading NFT artists. conducted India's biggest beatboxing workshop at VR Mall with over 3,500 plus participants, along with Virat Kohli and Chris Gayle and Ranveer Singh. So, yes, amongst us, I want you to be here with me on stage. Okay, I've actually seen him in a transformation. I'm always inspired by this young, talented beatboxer, architect, and also he's his own managing director of Dirt Lab. First ever beatboxer to work on a project for United Nations, where he collaborated with over 1,200 plus singers from 12 countries to promote international peace. May I kindly welcome you here. First ever beatboxer to be featured at Times Square, New York. First ever beatboxer to perform in Metaverse, open for international artists such as Accent, St. Paul and Cardinal Offshore. Ex-youth brand ambassador for Adidas Originals and JBL, and he's the founder of Beat for Beatbox and Dirt Lab. First Indian beatboxer to feature in a concept commercial for Pepsi creator for the Meta Voice and his project, which is the world's first ever beatboxing generated digital art NFT CDs featured on Business Insider, Rolling Stone, Use Your Story, Times of India, and so many more. He is a TEDx speaker too. To everyone out there, ladies and gentlemen, it is Abhishek Agwas Bhaskar
Thank you
with
so
us
much.
this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, give our MC a big round of applause. MC first, yeah, come on. Okay. Before I start, how many of you know what exactly is beatboxing? Raise your hand up. Okay, very nice. For those of you who don't know, this is a tradition of mine. It's called... Let's interact with each other, alright? Get your hands up. 3, 2, 1, come on. That's beatboxing. Did you guys like that? Super. Okay, let's do this. That's just the intro. I'll get back to beatboxing in some time. The main reason I'm here is because I'm also an architect and I've been exploring a few things with AI. How many of you know what's AI? Please, I hope it's everyone. Okay. Artificial intelligence. I'm here to talk about AI in the field of architecture and how it can impact the future of work, especially for architects. Where is my clicker? Thank you. Okay, yeah, this is good. So this one is pretty interesting. That is how I was born, fortunately and unfortunately. That is my Web 0 life. That is my Web 1, where I started off beatboxing, making noises with my mouth. This is the Web 2 guy. This picture was taken right over there around 3 years ago. Mr. Anand is here. And this is my Web 3. This is the third evolution of the web. That is where everything is decentralized, everything is transparent, and you exist digitally. You don't exist in real life. So you have to keep checking yourself if you're real. So this is my digital avatar inside the metaverse. This is how I look inside the metaverse. So I'll primarily be speaking on how AI affects your future of work and what exactly is the metaverse. Again, this was at NFT NYC last year. I think this one was a new addition to the whole concept. I also spent 31 nights inside the metaverse, only the nights, not the whole day. So I come back from work, I plug in, and I just wanted to see what exactly happens to the human mind when you're completely immersed inside the metaverse. So all these pictures and the collage that you see here, each of it is one single event. The first one there is basically I'm performing on December 31st for a New Year's Eve event inside the metaverse, and that neon green person that's looking over the screen is my digital avatar. So I have different avatars on different metaverse platforms as well. And these are my NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which allows you to see the human voice in its visual form. Whatever I did just now, beatboxing, if you could actually see it, the technical details, that is what these things could look like. Apart from these two, these are my actual faces. Anyways. So we also ended up conducting during the pandemic one of India's biggest NFT and metaverse workshop. All these are through Zoom as they were saying. So just to quickly take you through what exactly is Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 in the most simplest form. Web 1 was your Amazon website back in 1990s. Web 2 is your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever it is, where again it's big companies that are controlling your assets. I was talking to someone there, what if Instagram shuts down, all your content is gone, you're no longer this influencer, right? So Web 3 is where everything is on-chain, which means on the blockchain, which means even if the companies that are creating these platforms die down, your content is still always there. It's non-fungible, no one can change it. It's the people that control this particular technology. So last year I showed this, I think around November. These are the companies that are already working inside the metaverse from a design perspective and also a tech perspective. So if you think metaverse is a really new concept, it's technically not. It's already outdated. So we're already moving past the metaverse right now. So these are all the big companies. You can easily recognize all the companies. If you're into gaming and 3D world building, you can look at Unity, Unreal. Apple is already there, of course, Samsung, all these companies. And of course, Meta is already there. Some of the jobs inside the metaverse, I'm also a beatbox inside the metaverse. I make a living by performing inside the metaverse. And every single, so from an architectural perspective, someone has to design the metaverse, right? Someone has to design a place where you can say, someone has to design this particular place. So it's right here. But yes, someone has to design these things. And right now it's not being done by architects at all, at least in the metaverse. It's being done by people who know how to handle 3D objects, and they're just placing things here and there, right? So we need a real conversation where architects come into this and intervene and design accordingly. Okay, this is my favorite bit. I always get excited. This I presented last year as well, so let me show you how quickly things are improving. Before that, how exactly does AI architecture work? You have a text. In this case, your client is explaining to you, I want a big house. I want 10 bathrooms, 1 bedroom. Doesn't make sense, but yeah, it's the client sort of giving you a whole process, right? So that becomes your text prompt. That gets encoded and it spits out an image, a bunch of pixels literally, and this is the output. It gives you a whole bunch of options. So this is the basic crux of the idea. And this is a large language model. This is how the technical details of these image generations technically works. You have a text input and then it processes that and it spits out an image that you can sort of use as an inference. Think of it as your Pinterest. That's what I always keep saying. Your Pinterest is your Web 2 life. Your Web 3 will be more of where your clients generate these concepts and tell you that, I want to build it like this that I generated. So you'll see what exactly I mean for this. So I designed these AI cities last year. As you can see, at that point of time it was very interesting to me. I could see a lot of details coming in here. I wanted a rainbow city, like I think it had a covering here and like a sheet covering and some lakes and everything. So I was mind blown by the proportions of how AI is able to understand this in a matter of minutes. I have not given it any specific proportions or anthropology, nothing like that. But it's able to design things like this within seconds. So this happened, even this. It's able to distinguish the size of buildings as well as the lakes and the greenery around it. This was a Baroque city, so I wanted to see how much of detail is missing between these cities, right? It's like just basic points that are being gathered here. And then I asked it to design cities with the new updated language models which can understand the client better. Think of it as the client, so I'm the client here. And this particular software can understand me better. So this is V4, right? I asked it to design a green Dyson city. A Dyson city is something, it's a very futuristic concept, doesn't mind. But see how detailed it can translate my intentions better. I wanted a floating Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere is nothing but you have a star and you have a planet that encapsulates this particular star so that there's no wastage of solar energy. But yeah, think of it as mini stars that I wanted to have it here, and you have another entire city floating around here, right? How is it able to conceptualize all these things here? I gave walkways and a lot of greenery as a concept, but look at it designing by its own. It has sort of like a mind of its own, and it's incredible. If you understand the potential of this to quickly generate ideas, it's mind blowing. These were some options. this happened 10 seconds after I generated the previous one, right? So it's designing these walkways, I'm assuming it's a Hyperloop, and because the text prompt had Hyperloop in it, and all these different planets that are colliding, forget gravity. The laws of physics don't apply here yet, but at least it gives you a baseline idea. Imagine a 2-year-old baby, because this started 2 years ago. Imagine a 2-year-old baby trying to design this. This is another Dyson sphere in action here. Different options. I asked the AI to design a cyberpunk city as well. So look at the design language that it's translating. So in the previous one, it had more of these futuristic greens, and here you see a lot of rugged cyberpunk nature buildings here, right? It's incredible. Okay. Even this one is a cyberpunk structure that so the inherent thing about cyberpunk is you have all these 45-degree angles, like these chamfers in your building design language. So I could see a lot of that, a lot of neons here as well. This is another option. Again, here it's more of a cityscape thing, right? I can't reveal the whole text prompt, but one of the prompts was I want to see all these huge promenades and gullies where people can bring their yachts in and have a good time. It's sort of like a very Florida-ish concept. Look at the number of options it gave me, these two, right? And here again it goes back to the Dyson City concept. I was hungry at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I ended up designing a chocolate factory. I just wanted to see what AI has, what information AI has, and look at the concepts. So the intent here being, clients will be doing this to us, architects, saying that, okay, this is what I generated, can we design something like this for my site, right? So this is what you can realistically expect to hear from your clients in 2-3 years, or there's another way around, which I'll explain. And again, a zombie city, I just wanted to see what AI has in terms of a futuristic zombie city where there's no humans, there's zombies. Again, I was hungry. I tend to, as she said, I've undergone a transformation. I've reduced a lot of weight. So I've been hungry for the past few days. I also asked AI to design a donut city, right? Some cities with donuts. So this is what it ended up giving me. Again, I copied the same roadways and complex networks and everything. So it started generating these patterns, which I have no idea how it's actually working on it. But look at the proportions. Not even one single proportion is bad. The size of the trees is exactly around, say, 10, 15, 20, 30 meters. And you have this sort of road network that passes through it. And yeah, donuts obviously are not to scale, but that's the whole point of a donut city. Okay, another one here. This went completely medieval. I just wanted some extra water bodies and everything. So this is one of the generations that it made. Yeah, this is another one, but I didn't want to. So you can set percentages when you're designing. I don't want too much of donuts in this particular city, for example. So it gives you lesser amount of donuts if you're on a diet. So this was one of the options that I generated. This one has more. Yeah, all these other extra prompts as well. This one was, I think this was a futuristic Dubai, if I'm not wrong. I don't know which city which I entered, but this was one of the generations where I wanted a completely futuristic city, where the main sort of intent here, the main pressure point was I wanted to have unique buildings, unique skyscrapers. So this is what we're seeing here again. Again, you see this repetitive pattern of it forming its own road network. So if there are any city planners here, you can look at this as at least as a conceptual generation software, where you can figure out where exactly some random networks can come in. And again, this is actually not very controlled. This is just, you're shooting in the dark at this point, right? But this is again a 2-year-old baby. What happens once it reaches 5 years, 10 years? And you saw the improvement from literally November of 2022 to Feb of 2020, yeah, March of 2023, right? So in a span of 4 months, AI is improving so rapidly, so quickly. This was another one, I think this was for Florida. I don't even know which city this is, but anyways. So this was one of the generations, again, keeping in mind a futuristic skyscraper concept, and I wanted to see a lean skyline. Where, yeah, so this one becomes very important as a slide. This is one of my favorite slides as well, the most simple. ANI, AGI and ASI. Anyone has any idea what these words mean? ANI, AGI, ASI? No? Okay. So ANI is basically artificial narrow intelligence, AGI is general intelligence, and S is super, so super intelligence. So right now we are humans. Any guesses what exactly we are? General, narrow or super? No. I love the confidence. We're not super yet. We're nowhere close to super. but we are inherently general, which means if I ask you to make a dosa, you'll be able to make a dosa, but if I ask you to make a masala dosa, you'll be able to figure it out. You have general knowledge, right? One of our subjects that we learned as kids, we know how to do things that are similar. If I ask this clicker to cut my hair, it won't be able to do it. This is only narrow, it can only click things and change the slides over here, right? So this is narrow intelligence. All the bots right now are completely narrow intelligent bots. Narrow intelligent robots, like physical and as well as software bots as well. So we are here right now at ANI, artificial. We are real general intelligence, but artificial narrow is where we are at right now. Somewhere around 2040, that is in another 17 years, we'll be entering artificial general intelligence. That is where the phase between, so essentially if you know this thing called the Turing test, it's already passed because I've worked with clients where I've submitted ChatGPT. How many of you know what's ChatGPT, by the way? Right? It's where you can ask anything and it gives you the answers, at least the right or the wrong answers. So I've worked with clients where I've issued ChatGPT based answers as well. Wait until they figure out, Abhishek, what will happen to you. Okay, anyways. So essentially AI is already there, but the client did not, again I was just messing with the client just to see, after that I told them, right? But the client was not able to recognize that it's not my work at all. It's the AI that's doing this. So this can be useful for architects in terms of generating your text for your projects or anything. Basically the description of your project can be done with ChatGPT. All this is done using Midjourney. So coming back to the point of AGI, around 2040 we'll be building bots that are able to do multiple things, not just one particular thing. That is where they reach human consciousness, or at least that's what the thing is. And if you look at humans, right, we've been trained via ML our whole lives. What do you do to a baby that shouldn't do something? You tap it on its head, or just say don't do it, right? We are training the babies just like we do our bots. So this is AI, and machine learning is what we're doing to each other. If I just jumped off the stage, that is something that you guys won't like, right? So that reinforces inside your brain that okay, this guy did something weird, which is not supposed to be done. So everything is becoming ML at this point. So keeping that in mind, the moment we touch AGI, the very next second or the very next unit of time, it touches super intelligence. Because everything, everywhere, all at once, that amount of data can be gathered and we get super intelligence in the very next sort of unit of time. Even if it's days, it doesn't matter. It's not like humans are going to go extinct, but the conversation will shift towards bots and futuristic ideas. It's like asking a monkey to design a futuristic skyscraper. It's not even going to be able to think about it, right? So that is what we are heading towards. So as architects, again, I feel like I always have these uncomfortable conversations with designers, but it needs to be had. If it wasn't me, someone would be saying this 5 years from now, right? And we'll all be wondering why is our number of projects sort of declining? Because we as humans, we need to focus on more creative jobs. At least that's what I feel. We are different from other species because we have the ability to think creatively. So let's use that as much as possible and sort of progress towards a more creative sort of society, right? We are meant to do more creative things. Every repetitive task, fortunately or unfortunately, will get taken over by bots eventually. We're seeing that happen. Rather than me clicking, rather than me pressing a button on the laptop, I have this. So it's moving very quickly as we progress ahead. And the conversation with architects, especially like the architect-client discussion, will eventually move into this. There are two options you guys have. One is where the client comes in with this, or the other way around. Both the options you can't fight with the AI, by the way. It's a losing battle that we're fighting. So rather we make that our friend, right, and use it to sort of better our positioning in terms of the design possibilities that are there. So that is the only way. Either you can propose it to your client, or the client can bring it to you and say that, okay fine, I want something like this. That is where we can move this into 3D. By the way, all these are still 2D works, by the way. We haven't moved into 3D, but it is happening as we speak, where you can input a text and it gives you a 3D generation. A chair is already being done right now. So imagine how quickly it's moving. Probably the next time I'm here, we'll have some 3D things to look at, right? But essentially, yeah, this is basically what I was discussing. We'll hit super intelligence, right, like post 2040. That's what a majority of the discussions in AI is being had right now. Until 2040, we are safe. Another thing to consider, especially in AI and architecture especially, right now we know the metaverse looks fake. It's a digital universe, we know it, right? But the moment 10 years ago, we had pixel games, right? We all know pixel games. And now we have hyper-realistic games that we can't distinguish from reality. We've all seen videos of that on YouTube. So the same way in 10 years from now, what if our metaverse is so realistic that we can't distinguish between reality and a dream state or sort of immersed state? So that is another sort of literally something that we'll have to figure out, like the Big Bang, to sort of distinguish between reality and dreaming, or how do you distinguish? Until you fall in your real life, where laws of physics apply, you know it's real from your dream, right? So here it's going to be a whole different conversation where we have to have some sort of a proof of reality. Like in Inception, they turn this. I know it sounds crazy, it sounds mad, but these are the conversations that are being had right now. We need to have some sort of a proof of reality concept to distinguish between reality and being plugged into the metaverse. So, yeah, okay. Any questions or any doubts? No? Okay, so this is what in its essence is AI-based architecture. There's also a sheet on my table that I can show you guys, which has different generations of all the different cities that are there. Feel free to look at it, it's on this particular table here. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to leave with one final traditional thing that I do here. Can everyone stand up? Come on, let's do this. Always like to end it on a high note. Alright? Now, take out your phones, turn on your flashlights. This time we're going to do a wave. I just want to see how well people respond to this. Alright? Can we increase the volume on this as well? On this mic? Okay. The first benchers will get maximum attention, right? You're going to do this and you're going to turn it off. A phone has a flashlight and a plain side, right? You're going to do this, turn it off and turn it this side, alright? And it's going to follow to the back, alright? When I beatbox, you're going to start and it's going to flow to the back, alright? One bar. Let's do this, everyone. Keep it up, keep it up. Flashlight side on. Alright? Yeah, it'll be great if we can turn on the light as well. Right? 3, 2, 1, go! Come on, turn this way. Yes. Turn it on, turn it off. This way. Got it? 3, 2, 1, go! Let's do this. 3, wave it up, wave it up. Come on, hold it high, hold it high. Come on, don't be shy. 3, 2, 1, wave. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Abhishek Bhaskar. Thank you so much for indulging me in all these activities. Love it. Thank you so much.
Alright everyone, a round of applause for Abhishek and his energy and every time he takes us to the metaverse world. So, thank you so much for being here with us, Abhishek. Can you kindly increase the tempo of the song? After this slot, we will be beginning with our awards in recognition, but before that, it is indeed my pleasure and honor to welcome our very last speaker, but he is a legend, and I'm sure all of you are very inspired by him. So ladies and gentlemen, the guru and the guide for thousands of architects, it is Sri Krishna Rao Jaisim Sir. Sri Krishna Rao Jaisim Sir has a Jaisim fountainhead, has enjoyed the practice of architecture for over 4 decades now. His early years in the field were inspired by greats such as Buckminster Fuller, and he started the Jaisim fountainhead in 1970. Since then, he has created and recreated innumerable homes, institutions, and commercials enterprises. He has written over 150 papers and articles, made about 1,500 presentations, serves on several boards and councils, and finds time to interact with students of architecture all over India. His iconic views and individual Endeavors are the hallmarks of his creativity. Today, he still continues to pursue the adventures of the built environment, searching and researching beyond the boundaries of time and space. His work has been featured in the New York Times, the Hindu, the Times of India, the Deccan Herald, and on HGTV. In 1970, inspired by Ayn Rand's novel The Fountainhead, he started an architecture practice under the name J.S.M. Fountainhead. The practice grew from 1970 to 1975, winning a national competition for the Cochin Stadia President's nomination for the Small Industries Pavilion and Taj Fisherman's Clove. From 1975 to 1980, the firm began working overseas and ventured into other areas of building, such as the import and distribution of building materials, running scheduled contracts, and running a stone cluster and fabrication unit. In 1980, he returned to India and settled in Bangalore. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, it is an honor on behalf of Big Up Research Intelligence Private Limited, we welcome the legend, the guru and the guide for thousands of architects, Shri Krishna Rao J.S.M. Sir from J.S.M. Fountainhead. Architecture and Interior Design Awards Excellence and Conference 2023. May I kindly welcome and request all of you to kindly give a standing ovation. Thank you so much for being amongst us, sir. You know I always love you. Over to you.
It has been a fascinating morning. Thanks for bringing up all the fascinating people before me who literally elaborated and went into the depths of architecture and design in all its aspects. So I'm wondering, after all these presentations, and my great young boy dancing away his fascinating imagination, what could I really translate or interact with you? It's nice to see you all here in this place which brings me back a lot of memories when it was only a jungle, when Spencers had this land. And they said, what do we do with this? I remember walking in at and Brinda was also there. Then we were doing this Taj Fisherman's Cove. They said, why don't you open a hotel Taj in Bangalore? And that's how Western came to be. Otherwise, I would have had a bungalow here, or a good mother, a friend of mine, and stayed there. And these are memories. There's a lot of talk about visual intelligence. I don't understand one bit because I'm not artificial. The other aspect is knowledge. That is when I started looking at knowledge, I started looking at the various aspects of life. And architecture literally covers everything from who are you to what are you to why are you. It is a phenomenon. It is not a profession at all. It is beyond profession, it's beyond philosophy. It's beyond any rituals and beyond any religions. This is when the wisdom starts coming in. But before that, I don't know how I ended up literally interacting with almost all the rishis and gurus, not just India, but all over. Because I love my drink in the evening, and they don't, at least they pretend not to drink in the evenings. All their shastras, when we go to the temple and lick up, I never seen a greater liquor than when you go to the temple and lick the prasad. It really intoxicates you. But doing mosques, doing churches, doing temples, these were my adventures. But then, nearly after 6 decades of practice, not for the process. Architecture never quits you, neither you can quit. It's within you. I was looking at the way human beings, are they from the earth at all? Because my latest investigation of the mind is that we are not just 4,000 or 10,000 years back, we are 40,000 plus years back. It's getting beyond Harappa, beyond many other areas. Such intelligence were there in those days. But how many ages was it before it came to that age? It's a fascinating journey. Did people come from somewhere else and settle down here? Like the Europeans went to America? Maybe some of you here are not from this planet at all. I don't know. That's what I'm looking at. Are there any spirits that evoke us and keep us moving and moving and moving? And at the same time, with the Chinese aspect of yin and yang, there is a vast past. That happens in your life. The fascinating part of architecture is, it is not, and it is life from the day you're born to the day you maybe you're gone or beyond it, and continue in spirit. Many people ask about architecture, design and interiors. I've never found the difference. So when I talk to IT people, they say, ours is architecture. I say, yes. When you want to design people, the decorators say, we are the designers. When you come to the interior people, the manufacturers, and say, we manufacture the interior aspects and we put it together. But the fascinating part of us is that nobody need define any item. This is my way of expression. Because most people, when you go to, even now BIC is conducting an exhibition center, they're sitting in town, where things are going on. This is item. The moment they mention saying this is an item, to a person of creativity, it is not the item. It's only then creativity starts. Thinking is a fascinating process. You can talk to a little kid, a little child. My grandchildren teach me much more than I can teach them. Learning to learn and to unlearn the learning is the biggest experience I've gone through. Especially when I visit some of the mutts and other places. It's a fascinating process. Another aspect that I would like to share with you people in this fascinating atmosphere is, it is, how does one live? See, I'm only talking in one language. I'm not talking even English. This is English. Because when I started talking to the Royal Institute of British Architects in my English, very few of the British could understand me. They came to me and said, what are you saying? This is our English. It's their English. But now John called me and said, so when can you come down, or we'll meet at Pondicherry? He said, it's another world. Now what is happening in India is the transition from England being India to India being England and the other way around. Something fascinating of the journey is happening. We are looking at many historic aspects. It really takes me to wonder how do one address these issues. Initially, at the earlier days, I would have made a presentation, but I'm very happy to have seen these presentations of various people, right from the historical thing to the artificial thing to the other side of it. It reminded me of Jaipur and my walks in all the streets, till I was very angry when they built that big road and that thing. Oh, I'm still angry at that road. But anyway, that's life, that continues. I'm glad you said don't mention the rubble, they use the materials. Because that is the reality. Whereas artificial intelligence can't think on those lines. It is artificial. Whatever man put into that artificial becomes intelligent. And intelligence is not wisdom. We must get away from it. We will learn to learn our language. See, the great thing about architects, designers is perhaps the profession, if I call it a profession, where you cannot copy, you cannot imitate, yet you must perform. It's not like art where I sit in the house and paint and go. And yet I have to perform for somebody else, not for me. Even when I build my own home or my own office, that me is different from this me. Because that has many things happening which is not happening in me. That is the fascination. And then I talk one language, like I talk in English, or Arabic, or Hindi, or Tamil. Is when I love having fun with the great fascination of Indian combination. Because it's one of the few subcontinents in the world where you can never identify and say, are the Asians, are the Europeans, are the Antarctic people, are the Australians, are the New Zealanders. It's a fascinating subcontinent. I hope we do not integrate it so tightly that we kill individuality. That is my fear now. But I'm very confident it will not happen. It is the fascination part of this journey that is going to create the future of architecture. It is beyond what I would call the council the other day was talking to him, the president. He said, I'm very happy that you have finally changed it to a 3-year, 2-year separation. It has taken all these years to do it. But the colleges are not happy with it. They're losing a huge thing. Architecture cannot be taught. You can maximum take the person for a walk, but sometimes you can walk the person away somewhere. That journey is very important. I don't want to take too much of your time. I don't want to take too much of the expressions that are growing in your heads. I've come here to join all these people receiving various awards and various things. An award is an award of cognition of certain things. I was very happy when she mentioned this award, and left to talk about that. You must look at it in a very deep manner as to, can I continue this journey and achieve for yourself? The client is there, but doesn't really matter. The contractor is there, it doesn't really matter. But without them you can't move. That is the greatness of this profession. No other profession has this challenge. Keep on looking at it. You will find the material talks to you. When I usually go around some of the complexities that are happening, going around, my once called me a little mad because I start looking at the floor and talking to it. Or the cat that walked, or the dog that comes behind my daughter, puts it along. I said, what is the dog looking? Why is it looking that way and this way in this floor? Is there something that I as a human being cannot see or even understand And this dog and this cat is understanding. Can you go down to that level? Can artificial intelligence go to the dog level and the cat level? It is artificial. It's man-made. What is beyond life? Can you understand the fly that comes and bites you? Somebody was putting on the fly was biting you up there. I don't know what it is. What is it trying to seek? If you start looking at these spaces and then go into the next wonder, which I usually ask young architects to do, is go beyond the earth. Go into space. Go to the moon, Mars and beyond. Anybody asks me what is my next thesis should be, I said, if you can design what I have designed, it is not a thesis. It's just another design. Go. Search something. They said examples. I said, the moment you ask for an example, it is not a thesis. You have not researched or you have not searched. That is where the adventure comes. The adventure of an architect beyond time and space. If you can go beyond time and space and then absorb the reality of it and come and say, I can do and create something on this earth or some space, something that has not been there before, yet following all the very hard grammar of architecture, because it's a language. A language requires letters, words, grammar, paragraphs, everything, and it has a story to tell. Otherwise it's engineering. Unless there is a story that continues. And normally now where I stay in Sweden, all the oldies give me talk on Ramayana and Mahabharata, one of these things. I really have fun watching these Swamijis and others coming and talking. Finally I asked him, who was Rama? What do you mean? I said, who was Rama? They scratched their heads. I said, do you know anything? We just talk as if we know everything. Each one of them describing. It is what it is. That's the great thing about the Mahabharata. I mean, go into the inner depth, you will find it's just a fascinating, detailed abstraction. I'm now going next month. They said, where are you going? I said, the most magnificent, people call Guriya temple that the humans have built in Ceylon. That whose temple of Guriya? Koil, they asked it. He said, Ravana's temple. One of the most beautiful spaces I've ever seen early in my life. Much better than any Rama, Shiva, Brahma,